So first of all, I just, one of the best, greatest things we can give is our time. So first, I just want to thank you for coming on and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. One of the reasons I wanted to start this thing was to, inspire positive change through art and media. And, you're one of the people that inspire me. I've watched a few of your interviews and, one of your quotes, I don't know if it's yours or if you got it from someone else, but aspire to inspire before you expire.
Yes. It's not mine. I got it from somebody. It's great.
Yeah. But I do have some of your quotes that are yours. And then one of them is, you determine your reality. Another one is, no individual should rely on any other human being or system to define their worth as a human being. You have to begin to find that within yourself.
True.
Another one, it seems like history just keeps repeating itself. And until we can find a way to heal, it's, I don't have an answer other than, love and compassion and empathy, which we seem to be lacking as time goes on. But the other quote that from some of your interviews, by healing the internal issues that we can heal as people, our children don't have to suffer the same agony and pain that we put each other through. And I wanted to see if you would also, before we got started, if you'd share a couple of your favorite quotes.
You said a lot of them, but one is, if a man does not seek humility, humility will seek the man.
Yep, I like that one.
Another one is, in your lifetime, you'll never see a smaller package than a person wrapped up in themselves.
Yeah, I like that one too. And you've probably dealt with a bunch of different people, through, you have, I think, over 100 things that you've done between directing and acting. And so you've seen a lot. So I'm actually really good friends with Cress Williams from Black Lightning. We used to have, before he moved to Atlanta, about 6 or 7 of us, we'd have a potluck at his house. And I know he can't wait to get back. But so I went on set with him a couple of times, not on Black Lightning, but on Heart of Dixie. And he didn't work the day before. And one of the guys came up to him and said, "Man, we're so glad you're here, because you bring an energy that isn't here when you're not here." And so I think that's, that quote really helps. I did actually want to ask what it was like working with Cress.
It was great. So what I love about the show, it's a superhero show, but it's about a Black nuclear family also.
Yeah.
You don't see that very much on television. So I like the action, but also the compassion of the humanity that they show. I think it's important.
Yeah. We don't see too much of it, In fact, we were missing a lot of those nucleus TV shows that I grew up in. I grew up with Life Goes On and The Cosby Show and Family Matters.
Yep.
And I wish we had more shows like that, because it, and we definitely don't see enough shows like The Cosby Show and Family Matters, where, you talked about once where seeing the humanity of a Black family. And I actually felt like Bill Cosby, despite the things that he went through, my father he was there, but not really there, if you know what I mean. And so Bill Cosby and the father on Life Goes On and stuff like that, ended up being my father figures.
I understand.
So you also have a couple jokes that I heard. I wondered if you would start us off with a joke.
Which jokes are you talking about? A lot of them.
Well, anyone that you want, but the one that I heard was about the little black boy and flour.
a little black boy is helping his mother bake a cake and get white flour over his entire body. And he goes to his mother and says, "Mommy, mommy." "Yes, sweetheart. I'm a little white boy." Boom, hits him on his butt. "What did I do wrong?" "Go and tell your father what you just said." Goes to his father's room. Said, "Daddy, daddy." "Yes, son. Look, I'm a little white boy." Boom, hits him on his butt. "What did I do wrong?" "Go tell your grandmother what you just said." Goes to his grandmother's room and says, "Grandma, grandma." "Yeah, baby. I'm a, spit it out. I'm a little white boy." Boom, hits him on his butt. Goes back to his mother. His mother says, "What lesson did you just learn? What lesson did you just learn?" Little boy says, "What I learned is I only been white for 5 minutes and I hate you black people already."
Where did you hear that from, that joke?
A friend of mine told it to me years ago.
So I do want to ask some of your questions, some questions about your career, but I think a lot of our guests might have better questions. Mainly, I just want to talk about, you know, because I really want to inspire change through art and media. You know, I think it's a powerful tool. I feel like, I don't know, I'm not really sure what's going on in the world, and I don't know how to change it. So. And I wish I had read your book. I just found out that you had one. So I know that you tell a lot of stories about your life. You were born in 1943, correct? And then your parents were born in the early 1900s?
Yes.
And one of the quotes that you said is, "My parents taught me that it is my responsibility to make sacrifices for those after me." And one of the quotes your parents said, "You're no better than anybody else, but nobody else is better than you."
That's right.
I know that they moved from the South. I can't remember. I know your mom was from Mississippi, and I can't remember.
Yes.
And then where was your?
Orange, Virginia.
Okay. And I know they moved north to give themselves and you and your sister a better life. How did racism affect your parents? And how did they work through it to where it didn't affect them in a, you know, to where they could stay positive and raise you with the type of things that instilled the type of person you are today?
My parents,
if that makes sense.
My parents, they worked very hard. My father had 3 jobs, worked 7 days a week. My mother had 2 jobs. And no matter what somebody said to them, they did their best at their work. And they usually, the results of that were usually better than the people that were working around them. My father started out as a foundry worker at the Deal Valve Separator Company, making missile shells for bombs, etc. And then it turned into something, another place. And then he became actually the head of the machine shop because he had a brilliant mind, no education in terms of college or anything, but he was a brilliant, brilliant man. He just watched, observed, and when given an opportunity, he did the job better than the people he worked for. And so when people saw that, even though he was paid a little less, he did a better job. And so as a business perspective, they hired him.
Do you think as people got to know him, do you think people saw him differently?
Well, yeah, well, we all perceive each other based upon our physical appearance.
Yeah.
But we don't connect to each other's humanity. if you work with people for a while, they see your humanity. They have a choice to relate to that because they're human too, or not. And a lot of people saw his work ethic and his humanity, and they related to it.
So what was the greatest thing you learned from your father specifically? What was the one thing that he taught you that you carry with you today? I'm sure there's a lot. It sounded, I mean, all the stories that I've heard about him through the different interviews I saw, he just sounded like a really great, down to earth guy that really tried his best to treat everyone the right way, even when he wasn't treated the best.
My father lived by a certain quote, and he believed whatever you blame, you empower. Whatever you blame, you empower.
Yeah.
So if you can let, it's like in our lives, if something has bad circumstance, or a person or a situation has their foot on our neck and our neck is cracking, and it's so big we can't see the top of the head of the monster, whatever it is. We have one of two choices. We can talk about how powerful and big the monster is, and we're going to die because he keeps pushing down on our neck, and he's so big we can't even see the whole body or anything. Yeah. He keeps pushing us, or we can at least bite his toe. And toes are tender. Mm-hmm. So you can complain about how big he is or go, hunk. He's going to kill you anyway. What do you have to lose in terms of biting his toe?
Yeah.
And most of us just go under talking about how horrible, how big, mean, unfair, describing the power of the monster. Well, the monster is powerful, but so are we.
Basically, you do what you do what you can control, or you take advantage of what you can control, versus complaining versus doing something about it, even if you know you're going to lose.
Well, if you know you're going to lose, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if you don't know you're going to lose, you might win.
All about perspective, right?
Well, it's our perception of ourselves. We are shaped by things, what we own, where we live, the clothes, the watches, the girlfriends, the marriage, whatever it is. But that's not the core issue of who we are. We are, Wayne Dyer, who I love, has a saying that I try to live by. He said, every morning you wake up, you have two choices. You can be a host to God or a hostage to your ego. EGO means edging God out. So if you're a host to God, which is within you also, and you believe that you can do anything you want to do if you're willing to put the work into it, there's nothing you can't achieve. Because in your mind tells you that you can or can't do something. If someone says you can't do it, you can say, yeah, you're right, or you can tell them to shut up and sit down.
How do you think people break out of feeling like that? I think a lot of people in the art turn to art because lack of self-esteem a lot of times. How do you think we can work on changing our perceptions of ourselves to where it's healthy? Because I do see a lot of people that, just complain and don't, everything's half empty instead of half full. What did you do to get to that place?
I worked harder than everybody else. I worked my butt off. Wait for nobody to give me nothing. I just worked.
Which is what your parents did.
My father taught me the principles of excellence. I'll give you an example. Every Saturday, my buddies would go play basketball, football, baseball, or whatever. And we had a ½ acre of lawn. I had to mow the entire lawn by hand around lawnmower. ½ acre. After I finished the lawn, I'd go to the front porch. My father was smoking his pipe and reading his newspaper. And he said, "Are you finished?" I said, "Yes, sir." So let's go. You go to the top of the lawn to the bottom. And if I had missed mowing a patch, it's called a skip. My father made me not only mow the patch, but I had to remow the entire lawn. Because his philosophy, either you do it right or you don't do it at all. So one Saturday, the years of doing this, he was sitting on the front porch, but his pipe in his newspaper. Said, "Dad," I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why don't I have to get all the patches in the lawn?" I said, "Miss Johnson next door, look over there right now. At least 10 patches in her lawn. She doesn't make her son remow the lawn because there's 10 patches." He looked at me and he said, "Well, I guess you'll be sleeping with Miss Johnson tonight." Because as long as you're in his house, you're gonna do it the right way.
Yeah.
He taught you excellence, not good. It has to be excellent.
Sorry, he keeps muting himself on accident. Yeah, excellence is important. So what did you take away from that specifically, like in life? After, I know in the moment you're like, you didn't see it. um, especially, why not just go back and just mow that one patch? Why do I have to go mow everything? Um, and, you mentioned all those kids playing baseball. I don't know if they were watching you have to go back and mow this other stuff. So I'm wondering actually how your father affected your friends as well. Because a good influence tends to, spill over from our family into other families.
I'm sure he impacted some of them, but some of them were what they used to call in those days hard-headed.
Yeah.
If you're hard-headed, it's hard for you to listen. And so some people got it, but many people did not. They just wanted to play ball and get away with doing it not totally right. And that's the way to live their lives. And but what my father taught me was whatever I did, I had to do it to the best of my ability and make sure it was the best that it could be. When I direct a film, for example, and we're premiering the film with a big audience, I sit in the back row.
Yeah.
And no matter what the audience's response is, I always see what I could have done better in the movie.
Yeah, as we all do with our art. I'm a screenwriter, and an actor, but I'm mainly a screenwriter now. And it's never good enough, but eventually we have to make it. And what about your mother? I know you said she worked 2 jobs, oftentimes 7 days a week. So what kind of things did you learn from her? What kind of things, when you think about her, what's the first thing you think about?
She taught me how to cook, and my sister how to cook. So I'm a pretty good cook, so my sister. She taught me and my sister, to keep your word.
That's something you don't find in LA very often.
Ha 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 ha. Well, it's not something that's practiced very much. But if she asked you a question and and you were lying,
Mm-hmm.
she let you talk. And she said, "Are you finished?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She would come close to your face and she would look in your eyes and she would say, "You know, I'm not as dumb as you look." See, they were brilliant. You know, they didn't have even a high school education, but
Yeah.
the lessons of life taught them a lot.
Did they learn a lot from their own parents?
Yes,
And how well did you get to know your own grandparents?
not very much. My grandmother I knew, grandfathers died. We were very, very young, so we didn't get to know them. But they grew up in the South and they saw lynchings and
Yeah.
things called nigger barbecues, which where they put us on spits with fire beneath us and they turned us and roasted us while we were screaming alive. And they take parts of those ashes and they hold it up, hundreds of people. And there's a book called Without Sanctuary. You should get it.
I will.
It's a book of pictures of lynchings and nigger barbecues throughout the South. And I keep it on my living room table because I never want to forget that part of our legacy.
How do you think your grandparents, you know, I mean, it's hard to love your oppressors. I mean, love might be a strong word, but it's hard to, I don't know. I feel like it's almost hard to become a good person towards people that treated you so horribly. But do you know how they got through? I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm without words even thinking about having to witness it, especially if it's someone that you love. I mean, how do you think they stayed grounded through stuff like that?
If the survival of your children is at stake, you find a way.
Yeah.
It's not about you. Okay, somebody insults you, right? You know you're not what they said you are. So you'll say, okay, okay. But if you fought them, you put the life of your wife and your children in danger. So you had to digest what they said. As a culture, we are alchemists. Jesus was the first alchemist. He turned water into wine.
Yeah.
But they threw us guts and we turned them into chitlins. They threw us the knuckles of pig, we turned into pig feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just simply saying oppressed cultures find ways of being alchemists.
Mm-hmm. You know, that reminds me of us. I don't know too many stories. I'm going to get your book, and then I want to bring you back on, just you and me the next time, after I read the book. I also want to read that other book too. But you had a story that I heard you talk about where your dad punched two cops and took their guns.
Yes.
If you want to tell that story for everybody.
Well, my sister and I were around 8, 9 years old, and we were riding down Main Street. My father made a U-turn, a legal U-turn, and some two police officers saw him. They pulled him over, and they said to him, "Nigger, get out of the car." My father said, "What did you say? See my family in here?" He said, "Yeah, I see all you niggas." I said, "Nigger, get out of the car." Father said, "Sir, you should not be." I said, "Nigger, get out of the car." I got out of the car, closed the door, and punched both cops. See, he was a boxer and fighter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he knocked them out. And he drove to the police station. And he made us stay in the car. He went to the police station. He talked to the sergeant. He told the sergeant what happened. And the sergeant said to him, "Mr. Duke, you can go. They never should have done that in front of your family at all." And he drove home.
Because he said, I have a family too, or something like that, correct?
Yeah.
So did you, I mean, all this is, growing up, I was born in the 70s. Um, but, so I can't even imagine going through something like that. But were there a lot of people that were reasonable like him? Or did you find most of the people to be, jerks and racists? And 'cause he sounded like he must have been a decent guy to let you guys go. Because he probably could have threw the book at your father if he had wanted to.
Yeah. But, I came up as a racist because I hated white people because of what I saw happen to my family and what I saw happen to neighbors from white people suppressing them and insulting them.
Yeah.
But there are two things that confused me and changed my life. When I was in high school, I was a tall, dark, not a handsome guy, and very introverted. I have a disease called dyslexia, so I wrote my journal, my feelings, because I couldn't express them verbally. Yeah. But I memorized Roget's thesaurus to make it look like I could. So one day I'm writing my journal for my English class. Miss Walker, the English teacher in high school, said, "Stop writing your journal." So I stopped. The next 3 classes I kept writing. She said, after it was over, the class was over, she said, "Duke, stay here." So I stayed there. She said, "Give me the journal." So what? Give me the journal. She took it. Said, "I told you to stop writing. Leave." Left the class. I hated her. This white person taking my creativity away from me. At the end of the semester, I was angry, hated her. All the kids left class. She said, "Duke, stay here." I said, "Miss Walker," she said, "I said stay here." I sat down in front of her desk. She went to her desk and she pulled out 2 things: my journal, and then the poetry contest, the national poetry contest.
Yeah.
She had entered my poems from my journal into the contest and I won a prize. This is a white woman that did that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm a little confused. Okay. She said, "Just leave the class. It's okay." I said, "Thank you, Miss Walker." And she said, "Don't thank me. You're a great poet, great writer. Don't stop writing." Second thing that happened was at Dutchess Community College. I got a Martin Luther King scholarship to Boston University. Paid for my tuition, but not for my books and my living and my food.
Yeah.
And I had enough money. So I decided I was going to come back to Poughkeepsie, New York, where I was born, get a job for a year or more, save money for my books and my room and board, and go back to BU. Still a racist at that time to a certain extent. Dr. James Hall at Dutchess Community College, he was this stern president, naval commander. I'm walking down the hallway. I saw some friends of mine at Dutchess and leaving the door. He said, "Duke, come on my office." I said, "Dr. Hall, what? Come on my office." I said, "Oh, Dr. Hall, how you doing?" I said, "Well, at BU." He said, "I know, I heard you at BU. You're doing well class-wise, but what's going on?" I said, "Well, I'm coming back to Poughkeepsie because I can't pay for my room usage." He reaches into his vest pocket and pulls out an envelope. I said, "What is this?" He said, "Open it." He had written a check to cover my room, board, and books for 2 years at Boston University.
That's amazing.
This is a white man. I'm looking him in the face and he says, "Don't thank me. I believe in you." It changed my life. It changed my way of thinking about race, humanity, everything. He didn't have to do that.
What do you think it sounds like both of those teachers saw something in you. Um, did you see that in yourself at that time?
No,
Do you feel like your perception of yourself changed after, especially after the college president, you said?
well, they saw my humanity. They saw my worth. They saw me as somebody that they felt could be somebody. And that spilled into my consciousness. And it made me believe in myself more. I mean, for him to do that, I mean, we're talking about in those days, room and board and all the expenses, including transportation, going to and from Poughkeepsie from Boston University out of his pocket. Are you serious?
People like that amaze me. I wish we had more people like that in the world.
I used to call him and I used to call him and tell him that I loved him for it. He used to say, no, 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 hang the phone.
Did they live long enough? I don't know if you were able to keep in touch with your teacher from high school, but were they able to see what you became, what they basically invested in?
I think, yeah, I used to call Miss Walker and tell her how much I appreciated it and everything. And but she died not too long after that. And I called Dr. Hall, but he didn't want to hear me thank him. He would say, okay, put the phone up. He was not a much of a talker. Dr. Hall was just a doer. He would not talk about his accomplishments. He was one of those people that was really quiet and silent, stern, but he did great things for people.
Well, there's, one of the big Christian teachings is, do stuff with, but, keep it quiet, because God will award you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he awards you in the open.
That's right.
Um, I wish it's amazing that people like that exist. And I kind of wish that people like that existed for everyone going through life. And you don't realize the kind of trajectory you can send someone on just by a smile or a kind action, or some of them are huge like what he did for you, and some are smaller like what she did. What she did was put your stuff in, but
yeah. That's why it's important. I mean, for me, I have two things. I have a foundation, the Good Media Foundation. It's been in business for 10 years. And we teach high school students who are in our industry two things: media literacy, going from film and television to media, and financial literacy. Not how to just spend a dollar, but how to use a dollar.
yeah.
I'm launching my own network in 3 months called Unite.
Like that.
You turn the TV on, all you hear is bad news.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening in the world is a lot of good things people are doing, like in CNN Heroes. No one talks about that. So my network is about the good news that's happening in the world. Also, I'm coming out in a film in a couple of months with Matt Damon and Don Cheadle, directed by Steven Soderbergh, called No Sudden Move.
Yeah.
You have an episode of The Oval that's coming on, Tyler Perry. And I have 2 books. One, The Journey, which is going to be an animated short film. And then a book of poetry, Home to the Invisible Man, which is going to be out in the next 6 weeks. So I'm doing a lot.
Are some of those poems from high school? Are we going to be able to see some of those?
A couple probably, but probably ones that are later on also.
Okay. Yeah. So like I said, actually, I did have a question about your foundation, which I was going to bring up later on. But being around for 10 years, have you seen the impact it's had? Because some of those people would have graduated by now, and went to college. I don't, some might even enough time to go by to get into doing something in film. Have you seen the impact of them after they've gotten out of school?
Yes.
Out of your program?
Yes, I'm going to college, somewhere in the business, working. writing, directing, acting. They stay in touch with us and thank us. We have to intervene. Right now, you know, there are certain high schools that are in this country, unfortunately, that are graduating students with second grade reading skills.
Yeah.
That is called a pipeline to prison. How do you survive in a global economy with a second grade reading skill? You don't. So we want to intervene. We want to pass whatever we have on, pass it forward, and let young people know that somebody cares, that there are people who care.
Which is a lot of work. You know, that takes real commitment.
Well, you can even just, as Wayne Dyer says, every day you have one or two choices. You can wake up as a host to God or a hostage to your ego.
Yeah.
And your ego, you know, I know a lot of wealthy people. They have the boats, they have the houses, they have the accoutrement, and they're miserable.
Yeah.
That's called purgatory, baby. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that either. And I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for anybody. So I'm very thankful that you're, you know, giving back and doing what others did for you. You know, they sent you on a trajectory that, I mean, I don't know where you, I think you would have still ended up okay. But, you know, people made you greater along the way. And that's important for us to do.
Yes. With the grace of God, yes.
Yeah.
Every day, every day, every day, every day.
So that actually, I know you do TM.
Here's my life every day.
So and you mentioned, I saw something, you mentioned Tim Leary for a second. I don't know what about him you were referring to in an interview. My friend Bruce Joe Rubin, who wrote, remember Ghost, the movie Ghost? So he didn't sell Ghost until he was 45. But Tim Leary gave him some acid, and they were only supposed to put a drop on his tongue, and they ended up doing the whole thing, and it sent him on a trip that he didn't want to come out of. And he was talking to God, and he was asking him, you know, why do I have to go back? And God basically told him to tell people what you saw. And it sent him on a spiritual journey to India, searching for a spiritual teacher, which he didn't find, but he talked to the Dalai Lama and other people. But there are too many rules and not enough freedom. And, you know, a lot of them lock themselves away thinking that that's the journey, but I don't think it is. I think it's living life with other people. And so he came back. So I did do some yoga with him. It's an open eye meditation, but for me, it didn't really work. But I used to listen to Dave Ramsey on this TV show, or no, radio show on XM, and Degrassi, I think that was his name. It talks about stars and stuff like that. But anyways, Bob Roth came on with a show called Success Without Stress. And so I guess he's a big TM teacher. Have you heard of him before?
What's his name?
Bob Roth.
Yeah.
Okay, so he has a radio show. And so I got to learn a little bit about TM. Because you said it changed your life along with other things. And there were things that you talked about, you know, where we need to, you know, a lot of people are trying to fill that hole, you know, with drugs, with sex, with money, but it doesn't satisfy, as you and I know. So what are the things what is TM, and what exactly has it done for your life?
Well, transcendental meditation is, there are several kinds of meditation. One is concentration, where, say there's a candle in front of you. Look at the candle, and for an hour, it just takes you on a trip. Second is contemplation. Someone gives you a great thought, you close your eyes and you think about the thought over and over again. And then there's mantra, which is TM, an ancient sound that has no meaning but is a vibratory effect on the nervous system. And when you think the mantra, it digs into the nervous system and releases stress. It comes out in terms of thoughts, movements, or whatever. And you come back to the mantra. And so what it does is that it helps you focus, gets rid of a lot of the madness in your mind, and brings peace into your soul. And so I've been doing it since the 70s, and it's saved my life. I love it.
How did you find it?
I was in pretty bad shape with drugs and alcohol in New York. And my friend Aida Tengamana saw me going down, down, down. And she said, Bill, you know, you're hitting the bottom, man. You got to do something. I said, yeah, I got to do this. She said, try meditation. And I said, get out of here with that hippie stuff. So I went down further and she said, Bill, I love you. Please just try it. So she initiated me, gave me the mantra, but while I was the first week or so, I was doing the meditation, taking drugs at the same time. Yeah. And I didn't feel nothing. She said, Bill, I love you. If you meditate for 3 weeks without taking one drug, if you still want to take drugs, I'll buy you an ounce of anything you want. I said, bet. Because I'm thinking, you know, hey, you know, after 3 weeks, I'm going to be in good shape.
Yep.
First week goes by, felt a little something. The second week, there was something happening in my system that was giving me peace. The third week, the high I was getting off drugs, I was getting through meditation. Haven't touched a drug since.
Another person that cared about you.
Well, you know, if God sends angels.
Yeah. So how do you intertwine God with TM? And
well, you know, TM is a meditation system. And it really puts you in a place where God and silence, I think, are one. And you can go into this energy field that transcends your thoughts, your body, whatever, to put you in a place of peace. And I think God is peace within you. Once you find that thing within yourself, I think you come to grips with, we really overvalue the intellect.
I agree.
And I think the intellect is a limited phenom. There are things far beyond the intellect.
Yeah.
I've been studying these people recently that have literally died and come back. This gentleman was on the operating table, and he went outside of his body and he saw the people operating on him. And he saw the thing, zzz, and he was dead for like 3 or 4 minutes.
Wow.
And he saw all of these different things, and he was going toward this place. And something said, it's not time yet. And he went back into his body.
Wow.
So there's something beyond. I was in a plane crash. Similar experience happened to me.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So I'm saying to you is that it's terrifying to people, but there are things far beyond the intellect.
Yeah. Well, you know, God usually whispers anyways.
That's right.
You know, it's hard to listen to. We're not quiet. We're not gonna hear, you know, those directives.
That's right.
So in that, so I heard that you're a vegan. Are you still, other than once a week? I guess you used to have fish.
I want some fish again, but anyway, I've been vegan for a while now, and I'm vegan vegetarian now. I'm a vegan vegetarian because I have to build some more strength, and a lot of things are going on in terms of schedule. I'm working a lot these days, so.
Well, you look great, by the way. I mean, you don't look
Thank you.
You're in your 70s.
Thank you. 78.
Yeah, I have a friend. She looks older now because of coronavirus, but she's in her 90s. Her husband, a guy named Chris Kanoff, was one of my mentors, and I keep in touch with her just to make sure she's, she's okay. She's in her 90s, but I swore she looks like she was in her 60s. She's in her, and I think I think that's going to be the same with you.
She takes care of herself.
Yeah. Well, the reason it intrigued me is because I saw a video recently about how they treat these chickens.
Oh, yes.
And
you ever see the video, What the Health?
I have not.
Oh, God, you got to watch What the Health.
I will watch it. And I keep thinking I want to change. I don't think, I do think God made us, carnivores because, the lions do it. But I don't think we should be mistreating our animals.
Nope.
And that we want to be a vegan, but then every time I think about it, I'm like, man, I'd have to give up meat. Was it an easy transition for you?
Pardon me?
Was it an easy transition to go to vegan?
Hell, I was brought on pork chops, chitlins, pig feet, beef jerky, steaks, roasted pork and beef, and chickens and turkeys and
everything under the sun.
I mean, my family ate whatever was available to them to eat.
Yeah.
And you're at the dinner table, you would get a spanking if you did not eat your food. So it wasn't like an option. So I was brought up eating whatever was put in front of me.
Yeah.
But as I studied health and the impact of food on the human body, every cell of your body, what osmosis is in terms of, and I realized that I have to really make some adjustments, and I did.
And how do you feel? Do you feel like, is it like night and day between the way you felt before and you do now?
When I ate before, I felt, sleepy and groggy, and
that's how I feel all the time.
But now, eating vegetables and stuff like that, I don't feel it.
Oh, that's good. You also so I actually I was going to bring it up earlier because you were talking about you were going down. There was a time when you were in between jobs. It must have been for a long time, and you were peddling money on the streets, and another woman changed your life, at least in that moment.
I was didn't have enough money to pay for food or my apartment. Had no job. Ended up begging on the streets for money. One day I'm begging, older black lady in her 80s comes by me. I said, ma'am, some money? She looked at me, she just went by. Another person came by, I said, can I have some money? They passed me by. I had felt a tap on my back. And I turned around and said, oh man, it's the same old black lady that passed me by. I said, ma'am, you have some change for me? And she was silent for a couple of seconds. She looked in my eyes and she said to me, baby, do your mama know you're out here doing this? It was like, she just turned around and walked away. If my parents had seen me begging on the streets, they would have probably killed me or something because they had pride.
Yeah.
My mother and father never took welfare. They never took any state, anything. They worked hard for everything.
Your dad would have took a switch to you, no matter how old you were.
A switch, that's right. Took a switch to me.
I remember you talking about how, and I tried to do this. I never took a switch to my daughter. I'd probably get arrested nowadays. But
Yep.
you talked about how your dad would sit you down and talk to you about what you did wrong, and then
Well, my mother, it was
and
just
then
like, my mother just gave you a whip, a spanking, right?
yeah,
Switch, ironing cord, whatever. She's a Scorpio. Just my father. I'll give you an example. My father told my sister and I not to ride our bikes on the street, but on the sidewalk. So we were disobedient kids. We would ride our bikes on the street. And one day the neighbor, because in those days the neighbors were your parents too.
okay,
So us riding our bikes on the street and stood in front of our bikes and said, put those bikes on my stoop, my porch. I said, Mrs. Johnson, she said, put the bikes on the stoop, on the porch. So we did. So sit down on the couch. She said, didn't your father tell you not to ride your bikes on the street? Yes, ma'am. Sit there. She gets on the phone and calls my father at work. She said, Bill, they're riding a bike on the street. I said, I'll be there in a half hour. That was the longest half hour of our lives. So he comes, he walks us next door to our house with our bikes, sits us down on the porch and says, didn't I tell you not to ride your bikes on the street? I said, yes, sir. You know why I told you? Yeah, because the cars are dangerous. You're right. But you did it anyway, right? Yeah, you're never going to do it again, right? Never going to do it again, Dad. Good. Go get a switch.
well, at least you got to pick your own switch, unless there's only one to choose from.
Let me tell you something. We used to break them in half, and the first hit would snap. And he would say, wait a second. And they go get their own.
Did you ever put any padding in the back? One other thing that you talked about is, wanting to leave a legacy behind. And so you wanted to choose, maybe not so much in the beginning, but maybe towards the end, you want to pick roles that mean something to you.
Yes.
So a lot of us are screenwriters, some of us are actors, but when you read a script, either to write, not to write, but to act in or to direct, what are you looking for? Like what speaks to you?
I call it edutainment. I think it should entertain.
Mm-hmm.
To have little nuggets of things that make you think and feel too. You got to make the investor their money back, but
yeah,
what can you put in there that makes people think and feel?
Bruce used to tell me that he put stuff in and he thought it was under the radar, but they would always take it out. The stuff that he, because he wants to write stuff with a purpose, and I want to write stuff with a purpose. I think a lot of the TV now is more preachy. I don't think it went under the radars as much. Right. Harder to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, he tried to put, because he loves people so much, and he just wants people to live the type of lives that we were meant to live. And but for some reason, they always took it out. It was like some kind of radar that said, "We don't want," which I still thought Ghosts was an inspiring movie. But even stuff like Stuart Little too, which he wrote, he tried to add stuff, but it's just hard. But is there a movie that changed your life or just made you feel like you were a better person after watching it?
Yes, there are a few, but Frank Capra is my favorite director and writer of all time.
Okay.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Love that movie.
And the second, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
That one was good too.
Third is Citizen Kane. The better one's Run, Lola, Run. Godfather 1. Once Upon a Time in America. A lot of them.
Yeah. Is there a character that you played? So I just finished a Western, even though they tell you not to write Westerns. But this character, um, I don't know, I didn't expect it, but when you're writing, sometimes these characters just take over. It's like they existed and they're telling you their story.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't know what it is about her. Her name's Odessa. She's a 12-year-old slave girl, and I don't know what it's like to be a girl, 12, or a slave. Um, but there's something about her that I don't know. I just felt different afterwards. Um, it didn't feel like I was speaking, and even Doug was like that. Is there any characters that you played that or read or anything like that that kind of gave you that kind of experience?
When I did Car Wash and Dula,
Yeah.
when I did Predator, I mean, use the razor and everything, cut my face. That wasn't me. That was something that came through. It's hard to, when you're an actor, it's hard to explain to people. When you're a creative person, it's hard to explain creativity.
Yeah.
At some point, it's not your brain or your intellect. Something takes over. Something comes through. If you allow it, it comes through you. And it's no one has experienced it. It's hard for them to understand what we're talking about.
Do you feel like, because we explore so many different characters, through writing, through acting, do you feel like it helps us? Do you think it makes us more empathetic in life, per se?
It should, because it should show us the humanity in people that are not like us.
Yeah.
We're all human beings. We're humans being.
Yeah. I just find out, I don't know. I mean, at least on some places like Twitter, it's hard to even have conversations with people. You say one thing, they don't want to have conversations. They just want to shut you out. And I think maybe that's part of the problem. I'm not seeing as much empathy as I wish there were in life. And I don't feel like we're ever going to get through divisions without empathy and without,
I hope that changes for the sake of our children.
Why do you think we're so prone to just keep repeating history when history is so obvious that it doesn't work? We just keep repeating the same pattern.
Well, we're possessed by ego. You see, the ego says what you control, what you maintain, what you own, your power, your ability to force others to become what you want them to be, gives you your value.
Yeah.
And so I watched this show on TV, which is amazing, called American Greed. You ever watched it?
I have not. I will if you.
It shows you so much about greed. And I mean, people betraying their mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers.
But it's so obvious because there's no happiness and there's no joy in it. So I mean, it just feels like people should.
But if you suppose you believe that money is going to fill that hole,
Yeah.
or things, when you look in the mirror, you don't see what you like. You don't like what you see. Then if you think that thing in the mirror has a better suit or a bigger car or a bigger house or a younger girlfriend or fancy restaurants or a bigger watch, a bigger ring,
Yeah.
that sneakers that cost $1,500, then you have value.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of the, I hate politics and I try not to watch it because it's really depressing. But I feel like politics in some ways is trying to control as well because, you know, most of the discussions that I have, I can't have because nobody wants to listen. The reason I brought it up and I meant to bring it up with TM is that there's something called, I never even heard of it before, called the Natural Law Party. What is that? And is that something that you're part of?
I'm not simply a part of it, but I think it deals with not the natural laws of politics, but of the universe.
Okay.
What you plug into in terms of the universe is, look, we are such insignificance. Not only have they not discovered all of the planets, they're just discovering the galaxies.
Mm.
I mean, think about it. The galaxies, we haven't even discovered all the galaxies yet that have thousands of hundreds of millions of planets.
Yeah.
And we say we're the center of the universe. We're the only living entities are you just from a mathematical standpoint, do the math.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And quantum physics is one of my favorite things also. That really gives you a sense of things, quantum physics.
Yeah.
I have around 5 more minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before, but I was listening to Dave Ramsey because I wanted to get my finances in order. And then he came on and I was like, man, he's amazing. And then Bob Roth came on about TM, so I learned a little bit about that.
Great, it's great.
Actually, when I'm back in LA, I'd love to sit down with you and talk more about that kind of stuff.
Let's do it.
Well, if you only have 5 minutes left, I'll open it up to if anybody has any questions. Just feel free to.
I have a question.
Okay.
So you started your acting career, what was it that gave you the confidence to start directing and venturing off and becoming a multi-hyphenate in the industry? Was there a particular event? Was it just you decided I just want to do this? And what was it that caused the catalyst, I guess? And then to continue.
I directed plays off Broadway, some that I wrote, some I didn't write. I love directing plays. I was always fascinated with film, but I was intimidated by the cameras and the lights and the crew. I got a show called Palmerstown USA, 2 seasons, co-starring in it. And after that, it didn't work for 2 years. And I said, whoa, I better get over my fear of directing because if I'm not acting, I got to still live. And so I applied to the American Film Institute. With Tony Villani, I got in. I did a film called The Hero. It got a short film at AFI and won a couple of awards. And I shipped it around to different networks and studios. They said, no, we'll give you your second job, not your first one. Got depressed, went away to a TM retreat. My agent called me and said, David Jacobs wants to see you over at Commando. I said, what? I came back to LA, was David Jacobs' office. The meeting lasted 5 minutes. I said, this is a lot of crap. A week later, my agent calls me and says, Bill, David Jacobs wants you to direct an episode of Knox Landing. I said, what? So in those days, you had 7 days of prep and 7 days of shooting. I went in and I prepped for 7 days. And Joe Wallenstein, the line producer, came in and said, Bill, you did a great job in pre-production. We know you're going to be great based upon your reel. I said, my reel? Yeah, the reel that for your other shows. I said, no, man, I didn't. I just got out of AF. He said, whoa, wait a minute. He goes into David Jacobs' office. David Jacobs had mixed my box up with someone else's. And that's how I got my first job as a director.
That's good. Awesome. That's a great story. Thank you.
True story.
It means you were meant to have that job.
It means God has a sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make sure everyone. Has the link to your book, and I can't wait to see more of your stuff coming out.
This was a great pleasure. Great questions and great show, and thank you so much for your hospitality and kindness. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And as a veteran, and Jared's a veteran, and I was hoping we had more veterans. Just the last thing I wanted to talk about before you go is, I don't know if you still live downtown, but we know that there's a lot of homeless. And you mentioned one of your interviews about 12 vets killing themselves a day. And, you know, Jared and I have seen, well, I mean, I haven't seen, but I've talked to a lot of people. There's a couple, there's a vet group called MVP, which is where you merge veterans and players that get out of NFL. A lot of them got out early because of injury, and there's just depression, and especially on the veteran side, a lot of them saw people die and stuff like that. But you mentioned something about a documentary. Was that for veterans or was it for homeless?
I was trying to raise dollars for, we haven't done it yet, about the homeless and veterans also. I get very emotional about the veteran situation because a lot of my family went away to wars and they came back different people. And my belief is, and I know it sounds corny, but if you go away to defend our country, whether we believe in the war or not, put your life on the line for this nation and your belief in this nation. You come back either mentally injured or physically injured, emotionally injured. Just if you make it back, you should never have to worry about a job, a place to live, food, your children's education, nothing.
Yeah.
You should be taken care of, and that's not what's happening. And it pisses me off because I don't get it.
Yeah, as veterans.
You go away and fight for this country and you end up on the street homeless? Are you serious? There's something really, really wrong about that.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to help you with that if there's anything I can do. MVP would be willing to help VME, which is a very big veteran organization for vets that want to work in industry. USVAA. So there's a lot of organizations that I'm part of, and so we'd love to help you if we can.
We should talk because it's a matter of financing, as you know, and distribution and marketing.
Yeah.
So we can find the funds, and I really want to.
Hey, Bill, if I could, do you mind if I chime in and recommend something, right? I'm doing a program called the AT&T Veterans Media Fellowship, which is essentially like a 12-week producing program. And I found through that and VME and Got Your Six, there's a lot of organizations that on a corporate level, they are looking for projects to empower vets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Got Your Six had a goal to fill 6,000 jobs by like a a 3-year time frame or 5-year time frame, and they did over 10,000 jobs the first year. And they got studios to pledge jobs for veterans, which was an amazing initiative. And they far exceeded their goal, and they're continuing to raise the goal each year. And so I know that a lot of people, a lot of corporate corporate sectors they're looking for something to help veterans. So I think with your contacts and with your doors in, and I have friends at like IMDb and Amazon, that there may be some synergy there. If you brought that to them with one of the specific goals of helping veterans, that might be a good door of opportunity. Just a suggestion.
Well, Rick, you and I should talk. You and I should talk.
Yeah.
Jared, because I'm very serious about it. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to get it done, and people say, yeah, but when it comes to putting the money up, they somehow start stuttering.
Yeah.
So the thing is if we can have a separate Zoom meeting and talk about this, because I would love to make a documentary or docu-series talking about this issue, because it's a very serious issue.
It is.
And something that should be addressed.
Yeah, and I got a couple other people I'd bring on with us as well.
Just call my assistant and another Zoom. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we will. I'll get in touch with them, and then Jared and I have known each other a long time, but yeah, I think we can.
Thank you, Mr. Duke.
Say it again.
Oh, he said thank you, but I think together we can
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think together we can make this happen.
Beautiful.
Between all our contacts. But yeah, I'll set that up. Looks like you got a new assistant, so I've been making my acquaintance with her. She seems really good person. So I will email her or call her, and we'll set up another Zoom.
It's better to call.
Okay, I'll call her. But I look forward to talking to you about that. And like I said, I also want to talk about, not on that Zoom, but, get lunch or something, talk about TM and some other stuff.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Duke. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Okay.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
All right.